Hello everybody, and welcome to the very first video of Lore Tidbits, a series in which I take a look at the lore tidbits from the Sniper Gets Ammo series. You may also consider this your sneak peek for After the Cascade Blue Shift as well, which I'm working on. Today, as you can see, we will be covering 4 generations of HEV suit, or Hazardous Environment suit. We're going to be starting from the Mark II because I couldn't find a Mark I model, and we'll be ending with the Mark V. Let's begin with the pros and cons of the Mark II. Or actually, I guess, some background information of the Mark II. The Mark II was originally built by scientists as a part of Project Khonsu. Khonsu, spelled Khonsu. This project was initially to try, creating a teleportation device, a reliable teleportation device. The suits themselves were created for navigating the Zen environment once it was accidentally discovered by the scientists. The Mark II, seen here, is the earliest HEV model to date. It was created in 1961. Sorry, it was created in 1962. The first ever model provided solid protection, and it was also the basis for the PCV, or Powered Combat Vest. As you can see, not really that much in the way of armor, save for the chest and helmet. Included on the back of the suit is a breathing apparatus, due to the fact that it was not known if Zen's air was breathable or not. This suit offered decent protection. However, enough electrical shocks from a Vortigaunt could easily overload the suit's system, causing a massive power failure, as well as that the suit had some weak points with the airtight sealing of the suit, mainly around the cuffs seen here. In 1964, the design was updated a bit. Yeah. Eventually, the HEV suit was scrapped due to these issues. And in its place was the HEV Mark III protective system. This suit was a lot bulkier than its predecessor, and notably lacked the breathing apparatus on the back of the suit. After discoveries were made, the Zen air was breathable. This suit, like I said, is much more up-armored and refined than the Mark II variation. Basically, the armor was big enough to cover all of the suit's major weak points, and it hardly had any sort of problem with air or ventilation like the Mark II did. It could also take, and depending on what weapon the scientist had, also do a lot more damage than the Mark II. It was better in pretty much every way. However, this suit had some drawbacks. Mainly, it was big and clunky and sometimes hard to move around in, due to the pure amount of armor on the suit. Another thing of note was that the suit itself did not have a sprinting apparatus, meaning, while it was janky to move, it was also extremely not fast to move in. You get what I mean. And while the suit offered a lot of protection, it could still be overloaded. The back panel here was exposed, causing a power failure. Another thing is, both of these suits lacked landing jets, essentially, meaning any long fall off a cliff in the border world would absolutely cause the employees' bones to break and would require outer medical attention. Although, notably, during the HEV Mark III's time, a separate health charging apparatus was being developed in the nucleus labs. Ultimately, the suit itself was scrapped alongside Project Khonsu, meaning the suit itself was scrapped in favor of the Mark IV in 1981. Which brings us to the suit seen in Half-Life 1, the Mark IV protective system. This suit was a lot more refined than the Mark III variant, and actually, as we can see, there is a lot less. The armor has been significantly lessened on this suit than it has on this suit. This does come at the drawback of some of the weaker points being exposed, but generally this suit was built more for maneuverability around the border world. It also had a adapter port so that the long jump module may be supported. This means that people in the border world using the Lambda Complex's HEV technology could safely jump across large chasms, and it also included landing jets, so they would not break anything when they landed. While the suits couldn't take nearly as much damage as the tanks that were the Mark III, it was generally considered to be an open improvement compared to the original. Now, these suits stopped being used after the Black Mesa incident, because, well, I mean, Black Mesa got nuked, and the resonance cascade and all that other stuff. Which is why, technically speaking, the Mark V was completely unsynced. Here, this is the Mark V. The Mark V was upgraded by Dr. Isaac Kleiner in his lab in City 17. The project initially began when they dug up the remnants of one of the Mark IV protective systems and decided to enhance it, leading to the creation of the Mark V. Mark V. Due to some of the suit being absolutely destroyed, and there was not a lot of it left to work with, he had to make do with what there was, which is why you can see a lot of parts from previous suits are completely missing on this one. Mainly the stomach padding has been mainly the undersuit has been replaced completely by a heavily Kevlar padded undersuit, as this suit itself was mainly built more in terms of combat, as opposed to exploration of the border world. And to that point, a lot of the armor pieces that remain were upgraded to have higher resistances. And according to Kleiner himself, the suit and health charging were modified so that they could do it from the Combine health and armor chargers and such. A consistent thing among all suits built after the Mark II was a heads-up display in the helmet. This provided a readout of the user's health and the exact armor power of the high-impact reactive armor systems present in all versions from the Mark III to the Mark V. A feature exclusive to the Mark III and IV was the recovery beacon. The recovery beacon would activate anytime the user inside the HEV suit was detected as dead. This would immediately activate a recovery beacon. On the Mark III, the recovery beacon was right here, although, I mean, this is a flashlight. It was right here above the flashlight, and it was right here on the Mark IV. These beacons would let the team know where the exact topography and geometry of the location in which the user has died, so that a recovery team may be sent out to recover the damaged armor. As I don't imagine these things were exactly cheap to build. feature exclusive to the Mark IV and V is the fact that they can directly connect and port to what is known as a health charger. The Mark II was built at a time where this technology had not yet been developed, and the Mark III was built at a time where it was still being developed and not implemented. Previously, when someone needed healing from inside of the suit itself would have had to have been completely removed in order for medical attention to be administered. This was addressed with both of these suits. It is not exactly known how exactly the health charger worked, but we do know it essentially administered a slurry of medical drugs and other such things to stabilize and start the recovery of users inside of the suit. At least that was the case with the Mark IV. The Mark V, and I mean the Mark V too. The reason the Combine used it was because it was used the health charger was because it was based off the PCV, the powered combat vest, which was also predominantly seen as the HEV Mark II was also known to be the basis for the PCV, but yeah. The suits themselves. Okay, so a feature of all of the suits is that they were directly supposed to be on a charging station, essentially. In fact, here, let me show you a charging station. It's in lab models. Okay, so granted that this is the charging station for the Mark IV protective system, but they would have looked something like that. The charging stations were to make sure that the high-impact reactive armor and all of the suit's main systems were fully functional. Any significant decrease in power would mean that certain suit elements would not work. It was commonly reported that on the Mark III protective system, certain elements of the heads-up display, such as health monitoring or high-impact reactive armor monitoring, would simply not work if there was below 50% power, which was patched out in the operating system for the Mark IV suit. So, needless to say, it was necessary for teams to put their HEV suits on the charging. Another common thing with the HEV suits was that all of them were able to directly interface with specially made HEV charging stations. Granted that this one is the Mark IV charging station, but you get the point. This hose right here would have connected to this little circular thing on the HEV Mark IV suit. Initially, this feature was developed due to the fact that employees wearing suits like this, mainly survey teams, in the border world, would have to spend long hours exploring, and they would most oftentimes be far, far away from their original base of operations. So, these mobile HEV charging stations and batteries were developed so that the suit could replenish their HEV's high-impact reactive armor systems on the go. This is true in every single generation of the HEV suit. So, yeah.
Wouldn't you like to get one of these blood samples under a microscope?
So, a common issue more specifically with the HEV Mark II, is, as you can see, a head crab could overtake them very easily. As you can see here. Which was obviously bad because they'd be losing researchers and all that other jazz. This was due to a lack of proper helmeting around the area as seen here. The only sort of protection that they had was this chemical hood that was attached to the HEV unit. The same problem could happen with the HEV Mark IV, I guess. I'm not exactly sure how they were able to head crab them through the helmet, but I guess they were. This resulted in what is known as HEV zombies, where the users inside have become head crab zombies, despite the fact that they were still wearing their HEV suit when they died. This was most often due to the fact that employees would sometimes take off the helmets, due to the fact that the earlier suits were not properly ventilated. Or if they were properly ventilated, or the ventilation would get damaged at some point and would fail. Meaning repairs were necessary, but those repairs couldn't always be made. Especially in the unforgiving terrain of the border world, where stuff just happened for no reason. In summary, the HEV suits were all great protective gear, some of them more than others. Each generation of the suit improved on the flaws of the last one. Speaking generally, the final generation was the Mark V, and even then it was somewhat unsanctioned due to the fact that Black Mesa's destruction happened before its creation. Like I said, this is episode 1 of the tidbit videos. And like I said, I just gave some information about the HEV. Speaking more generally, the HEV suit Mark III is going to appear in the Blue Shift video, so yeah. Alright, with that, goodbye.